So I think if we get started. Okay, so hopefully you're in the right place. This is a PAS workshop related to the Biodiversity Net Gain Consultation and specifically on additionality. And just looking at my slide, I have spelled additionality right. I keep spelling it wrong, so that's good. I'm Becky Mobley. I'm leading a project getting local authorities ready for Biodiversity Net Gain when it becomes mandatory in around 18 months' time. From Planning Advisory Service. I've got Rachel, my colleague from PAS, in the room as well, and also Gareth is joining today to listen in. He's recently come back to work, so he's catching up on all things BNG. We've again got Defra and Natural England folks in the room. So we've got Nick from Natural England, Heather from Natural England, and Phil from Natural England. And we've got Max, Sarah, Emily, and Tom from Defra, and Laura from Defra as well. I was going to say I've missed somebody. So those guys, we're going to do, if you've been to any of these sessions before, we're going to do a breakout room and they'll be facilitating and note taking. So you'll meet at least 2 of them in a bit. The way we, just to introduce the Planning Advisory Service, if you haven't come across us before, we sit within the Local Government Association, and we provide basically advice for local planning authorities on planning issues, both policy and DM. And we are mainly funded by DLUC. This project's funded by Defra, and it's basically, Rachel's trying to shut me up. Am I waffling?
No, I was letting someone in and it moved, so apologies.
Like, oh God, she's going on again. If you've got new policy coming in place, well, obviously with this new legislation. So this year, for example, we've had this project. We've been working on free ports, design codes. Surprise, surprise, we're just doing some stuff at the moment on nutrient neutrality, which some of you may be more important for some of you than it was a few days ago. So that's what we do. And yeah, that's it. That's all I was going to say. I think, just in terms of logistics, we'll keep you on mute for this first bit, but once we go into the breakouts, please do put your cameras on if you've got the bandwidth to do that, and obviously unmute yourselves. The whole point of this is Defra, Natural England really want to hear from you guys, what you think about what's proposed in the consultation. They want to hear what works now, what you don't, what doesn't work now, what might work in the future, what issues you're facing, how you can see a way through this. They really want to hear that. So as much interaction as possible. Okay, let's get going. Right, so just to say what we're going to cover today, I'll give a quick introduction on what it says in the consultation document around additionality, just to sort of, so we're all on the same page on that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it, but hopefully cover the basics. We're then going to have just a single breakout session today. So we've got quite a long breakout session. So hopefully you'll have time to go, to all contribute. Really just around what do you think of what's in the consultation document? What do you need more clarity on? There will be more guidance produced. So Defra and Natural England are really interested to know what you need more info on. What guidance you need, and also, just as I said already, what's working well now, where you're already doing this kind of stuff, what seems to work well. And then I'll sum up next steps and we'll definitely finish by 4 o'clock today. Okay, so additionality. In the consultation document, additionality is defined as a real increase in social value that would not have occurred in the absence of the intervention being appraised. I didn't really like that definition because I had to read it about 10 times before I understood what it meant. But basically, I put another definition down below that I've sort of stolen from somebody. It's that the habitat enhancement specifically attributed in this case to be biodiversity net gain achieved by the project must be above business as usual. So it's not, it's above what you would have done if you hadn't done any BNG. So that's what additionality means. This whole section of the consultation document and what we're talking about today is very much around, okay, biodiversity net gain is obviously going to be delivered alongside other development and environmental policies and legal requirements. And how do you do that? And in particular, the question is, how much can habitat enhancements provided in response to wider policies, legislation and markets be counted towards development's biodiversity net gain calculation? So that's really why we're here today. What I should say is if you've got any questions about what I'm saying or what's in the condoc, save those for the discussion. We're not going to sort of go through questions in the chat. If you want to put anything in the chat, if you've got any sort of technical issues, then great. But if it's a question about this, save it for the discussion, because that's exactly the kind of thing we want to hear is, oh, I'm not sure about that, or, you know, how does this work? That's exactly what we want to talk about in the discussions. Okay, so just in terms of what the consultation document says around the principles of additionality and what's going to be allowed to be counted as biodiversity net gain and what's not. So these are the proposals that are in there at the moment. So the first one is around habitat enhancement specifically taken to fulfill a statutory obligation. And the example given is getting sites of special scientific interest designated features to favourable condition. That can't usually be counted as biodiversity net gain. However, there is a proposal in the consultation that you could enhance SSI designated features where their habitats are in the intertidal zone and up to 2 kilometres from the mean high water mark. So obviously Defra are interested in thoughts on that and how that might work. And I think there's a specific, because of the specific nature of sort of marine, coastal and intertidal habitats, that's why that's being proposed. Okay, so there's that one. Then how about on-site habitat enhancements, including green infrastructure, sustainable urban drainage systems and nutrient mitigation, for example? Yes, they can be counted, but they need to demonstrate an uplift in biodiversity value measured using the biodiversity metric. So you need to use the metric to show that you've enhanced or created habitat using, you know, then the metric needs to demonstrate that. Okay, and specifically in terms of protected species and off-site protected site impact mitigation measures. So when it says off-site, it means that the protected site itself is not on the development site. So the impact mitigation measures, yes, you can count those again, but only up to no net loss. So basically that means that so what it says in the consultation is 10% of the habitat enhancement needs to be above and beyond mitigation requirements. So basically what it means is you can go up to no net loss, but that extra 10% of BNG needs to be above and beyond what we would be providing in mitigation. So that, you know, what we're talking about here is any measures provided for protected species like bats, great crested newts, but also things like nutrient neutrality measures, which may be on-site or off-site, and also SANGs, for example, so suitable accessible natural green spaces provided as mitigation for European protected sites. So all of those things, yes, they can be counted, but only up to no net loss. So that's what the proposal is. Actions and measures within river basin management plans can be counted, yes. And actions to fulfil the NERC biodiversity duty, yes, they can be counted. So I know there've been questions about that before, that you know, because that's a duty, a statutory duty, they shouldn't count, but the proposal is that they should. And then enhancement of non-designated features of sites of special scientific interest. Yes, they can be, but that needs to be not in conflict with any of the designated features, and it needs to be agreed with Natural England. So, you know, for example, you might have a site that's designated for its, that's notified for its geological interest, but it also has some interesting habitats that can be enhanced, or, you know, there could be habitat creation, as long as it doesn't conflict with the geological designation, that's fine. An enhancement of local wildlife sites and local nature reserves, yes. And again, you know, as long as it doesn't cause damage to them in any other way, yes, that can definitely be used. And it's obviously could be quite an important way of securing monies to improve those sites. Okay, so that's what it says in the consultation document around, you know, what you can count towards biodiversity net gain in terms of other habitat enhancement. It then covers stacking payments. So this is recognising the fact that as well as sort of measuring habitats and measuring how much value you're getting from those biodiversity value, there's also going to be the payment side of it, and the recognition that the market for biodiversity units needs to work alongside all these other environmental markets. So that includes carbon offsetting, nutrient neutrality, and the new environmental land management schemes. So in the consultation, it says that government's minded to allow landowners and managers to combine payments for biodiversity units with other payments for environmental services from the same parcel of land. So basically you can have a piece of land and you can get money for doing different things on that piece of land through different funding streams. But those different streams have to pay for distinct and additional outcomes. They have to be compatible, obviously, because it wouldn't be ideal if you decided that you were, for example, tree planting whilst also maintaining peat habitat. And they don't pay for the same outcome twice, obviously. So again, it's got to be that, you know, there's distinct outcomes. The consultation says that these should take into account relevant local nature priorities, and also talks about delivering, you know, against wider ecosystem services. So and those local nature priorities would include forthcoming local nature recovery strategies. And there is going to be guidance produced. There's a recognition that this needs more information and guidance. So again, when we're talking through this in a minute, when we go into breakout rooms, you know, one of the things we're really interested to know is, where do you need more clarity? What could that guidance cover? What does it need to cover? What do you need to know more about? Okay, so I think that's all I was going to say in terms of the consultation. So it's going to be over to you guys to talk this through, see what you think of it, feedback. You'll have a facilitator and a note taker in your room, and obviously we're going to be pulling together all those notes and feeding back to Defra, but you'll have Defra folk and any folk in your room anyway. What we've done is we've sort of split this out into, what do you think of the proposals on additionality in the consultation, and we split it out into what you think about it around the protected species mitigation element, around the protected site mitigation element. So that includes, as I said already, SANGs, so suitable alternative natural green space, and nutrient neutrality, and also how additionality might work on site and off site, because there's a bit of difference in there and how that might work. So what do you think of that? And what do you think about the proposals for combining payments for biodiversity net gain with other environmental services, and what's put in the consultation, what I've just gone through? What do you need more clarity on? So that's very much around what, you know, what doesn't make sense at the moment, what are you not sure about, where are you having issues potentially at the moment in terms of dealing with these issues. And also, just, do you have any good examples of how you manage additionality and deliver different environmental services provided by development now? So it's just thinking around, even if you're not doing biodiversity net gain, you may have examples where you're thinking about, you know, potentially different, whether it's habitat creation or landscaping or something along those lines, and how you manage those issues to make sure that what's being provided adds up to well, at least the sum of its parts.